Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to look at something that came out relatively recently. It was a screenshot that hit Instagram that supposedly shows the release schedule for Marvel Phase 4. Now, before I go into this, take everything I am about to say with a humongous grain of salt, because it's just an Instagram leak. There is nothing to warrant that this might actually be true. This could just be people running with it. But it is interesting to say the least, because there are some titles that are put in there that do make you think a little bit. I'm just going to go through the whole list, and most of them we kind of already know, but I'm just going to go over it some more. So, first off, this is all post Spider-Man Far From Home. So everything after that movie, so from the beginning of 2020 to the end of 2022 is what we're looking at. Now, so the first one we're going to be looking at is May 1st of 2020 is going to be the Black Widow solo film. Now, we don't know a whole lot about this. Endgame spoilers ahead. She does die in Endgame, so this might be a prequel set before the snap. Maybe it has something to do with her encounter with the Winter Soldier. I don't know. That would be very interesting if that was the case. But, that one we were all pretty much aware of. Then another one that we were really aware of, which is November 6th of 2020, is going to be The Eternals. Now, that movie has already started its casting calls. I believe they have the first or second draft of the script. They've confirmed that that's been completed, and it's going through some polishing now. And I don't know exactly when they are supposed to begin production on it, but I would think it would probably be soon. I know that the Black Widow film is due to actually begin production, I believe, next month. So now we skip on down, and we skip on down to Black Panther 2. Again, this is not a surprise. We all kind of figured this one was going to get a sequel because it made $1.3 billion at the box office. And that is going to be February 12th of 2021. So again, they're in early stages. I think they're writing the script right now, so that's kind of up in the air, but we're going to have a Black Panther 2. Don't know who they're going to bring in, don't know much about that. The next one, which has been rumored, and it's supposedly having a rough script. It's supposedly in the scripting process right now. On May 7th, 2021, we will get Shang-Chi, which is going to be a new character introduced to the MCU that's kind of in the vein of the Iron Fist type. So we'll see where that goes, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know. Again, there's no casting out right now. I believe actually the actor who plays Bruce Lee in Tarantino's upcoming Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I can't remember his name, but I guess he is a fan favorite to get that role. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Then we go down to the last film of 2021, which is Doctor Strange 2. Again, not really that much of a surprise. The first film did well. He's a popular character. So we're going to be seeing Benedict Cumberbatch coming back as Doctor Strange. Now, the next one, which is an unfortunate one, but it was one that was going to be inevitable, is February 18th of 2020, or 2022. We will get Captain Marvel 2. Again, I didn't really care for the first film. It fell apart in the third act, but, it depends on if they get the same people back to do it. Maybe they'll get some different people, and they'll get different performances. Again, I didn't really hate very many of the performances in the movie, other than Ben Mendelsohn as Talos, but as long as they can keep Brie Larson on a leash during the press junket, I think they'll be fine. Now the really, really big one here, which is May 6, 2022, we will be getting Avengers 5, but they've titled it as New Avengers. So this is interesting because the New Avengers in the comic books kind of mirrored this. So you had the team was essentially made up of Luke Cage, Captain America, Iron Man, character called Echo, who was also known as Ronin, Spider-Man, and Wolverine, and Spider-Woman. So there's a lot of characters there that you could include, and it would be very interesting because it kind of gives a whole new light on what's going on with the Netflix series right now that they've just been canceled. So when you do that, because they canceled them, there was a contract in place, at least for the Daredevil actors. I'm pretty sure it was probably for all of the television series, that they could not portray that character for 2 years after the cancellation. After the 2 years was up, they could then portray the character again. For a different under a different banner than Netflix. They couldn't basically they couldn't do anything outside of the Netflix platform for 2 years. So if that's the case, then this would put them about a year. This would put them about 3 years removed from those shows' cancellations, which would mean you could use characters like Luke Cage and like Daredevil and like all those other characters that were in that show and use the same actors. And that is the key, is you can use the same actors. And a lot of people really liked the leads for those series. Personally, I think the best one was Charlie Cox's Daredevil and John Barathal's The Punisher. But that is interesting because if you look at the time frame, about a year before is when that film is going to be entering, or around early 2021 is when that film is probably going to be entering production for the summer 2022 release. So there's a lot up in the air. Then on top of that, you also have kind of the interesting scenario where they have Spider-Man, because technically Spider-Man Far From Home is the last movie in the deal that again, we don't know 100% about what this deal included, but it was supposedly for 5 films where Spider-Man would come into the MCU. Now he's had 2 solo outings, 2 Avengers films, and one his debut in Captain America: Civil War. So that would round out to 5. Now it's curious to see if maybe they're going to rework that deal, and I think that they will, because Sony basically gets all the money from the solo films, and they need that right now because they're on their deathbed almost. They've been coming back from it a little bit in recent years, but for the most part, they've been sucking pretty bad. But that's the really big one on this list, is that New Avengers, and specifically titling it New Avengers instead of Avengers 5. Again, all of this is speculation, but that is very interesting to me, because now you have Spider-Man, you'll have Luke Cage available by that point if you want Michael Colbert to come back. Obviously, Iron Man and Captain America are out of the mix, but Echo, who's also known as Ronan, which means you could have Jeremy Renner come back as the Ronan or Hawkeye character, um, and then add in a few here and there. Obviously, they don't have Spider Woman, but I mean that could be replaced by Doctor Strange or some other character. But the interesting one is going to be Wolverine, because again, they have the X-Men back. So maybe you introduce Wolverine in the new Avengers film, and then that leads off into X-Men for Phase 5. That could be very interesting. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then the last one that is on the list is for July 29th, 2022, and that is Ant-Man 3, which again is a little bit surprising because there wasn't a really good return on Ant-Man and the Wasp. So people were kind of curious on whether or not we would get an Ant-Man 3. But I think because he played such a big role in Avengers Endgame, and because people generally like Paul Rudd as the Scott Lang character, I think they will wind up doing an Ant-Man 3, and I think it'll probably be successful. I think they do need to get some better writers back, because obviously it was very sorely Ant-Man and the Wasp was very sorely lacking when it came to some of the humor in the film. I think a large part because Edgar Wright was absent from the writing of that film, because the first one very much had his fingerprints on it. So that's the entire list of films. Again, you can look this up online. It's in a million different places at this point, but just, go check it out. Or, obviously you've already heard me say it, but, take it with a colossal grain of salt, because this could all be complete bullshit. This could not be the movies that they're doing. Some of these we know are in production. We know they're coming out. It is odd that you see here no Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but that could also be because of James Gunn's involvement with the Suicide Squad reboot. In addition to that, because he's not doing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 until after that, so the Guardians might take a little break until after the next Avengers film. So it would be very interesting to see, and I am very interested to see it, depending on what's going on. So now that we've seen this, thank you again for tuning in. Remember to hit the bell for notifications, like the video, subscribe, leave any of your thoughts in the comments about any of these films, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?